The jungle echoed with the calls of birds and the screeching of monkeys. In the background, the monotonous drone of katydids sometimes appeared to drown out everything else. Smoke from morning campfires filtered up through the dense foliage overhead. Guerrilla members huddled in groups, eating or discussing the events of the day ahead, occasionally glancing at their prisoner, Bruce Olson. This was to be a special day, the day Bruce was to be executed before a firing squad for crimes against the people. His capture by the guerrillas had not come as a surprise. The leaders of the ELN, Ejército de Liberación Nacional, or the communist-inspired National Liberation Army, had worked for years to gain a following large enough to enable them to overthrow the government. The 20-plus Indian tribes who lived in the jungle had not been considered citizens until members of the Motilone tribe, with whom Bruce had lived and worked for 28 years, had begun to take their place in key government circles. Now, as a result of his school programs, the Motilones had emerged as powerful spokesmen for all jungle tribes. The ELN perceived Bruce to be their key to the Motilones. They had asked him to join forces with them several years before. When he pointed out that he could not, as a Christian, they decided to capture him, hoping to persuade him through forceful indoctrination. One day in October 1988, along with a group of Motilone companions, Bruce headed down the Rio de Oro to visit one of their Motilone food cooperatives. In all of his travels, he was cautious to steer clear of the guerrilla camps. As they approached the landing, however, he suddenly saw two guerrillas emerge from the jungle with rifles in their hands. The confrontation proved brief, since Bruce and the Motilones were unarmed. Bruce's Motilone friends were allowed to go, but he was bound. Placed between armed guards, he was herded from the clearing at the landing to a camp high in the mountains on the border between Colombia and Venezuela. Now, ostensibly on the last day of his life, his arms were bound to the tree behind him, and a swarm of insects drew blood from his body. He watched the guerrillas move about the camp. Nearly 9 months had passed since Bruce's capture. They had been little short of gruesome. Hour after hour he was interrogated, but he never argued as other captives did. Rather, he explained that as a disciple of Jesus Christ, he could not become a part of an organization or movement that used force to achieve its goals. The indoctrination process employed torture in many forms, mental as well as physical. Many of the guerrillas' captives had broken under the unspeakable indignities to which they were submitted. But the Lord enabled Bruce to consider it a part of his program of demonstrating to his captors the love of God, as he had to the Motilones during his many years with them. But as Bruce had observed the guerrillas in their activities during his months of captivity, he began to feel a compassion for them. He still did not agree with their philosophy of using force to achieve their goals, but he could see how limited they were in their claim that they wanted to better the living conditions of the poor people of Colombia. So he began quietly to offer suggestions he thought would be helpful to them as individuals. He showed the cooks how to make tasty dishes of jungle fruits, berries, and grubs. When the camp nurse saw that Bruce had medical knowledge, he asked him for help with choosing and administering medicine and maintaining dental hygiene in the camp. Bruce was especially grateful to God for those who had attended discussion groups that the leaders of the camps asked him to conduct. The subjects had included health care, politics, history, reading, and writing. A few months into his captivity, Bruce had been allowed to have a Bible. As the guerrillas saw him reading, many had asked for an explanation of it. He told them that must be reserved for Sunday, knowing that as citizens of a Catholic country, they might have a greater respect for it on a Sunday. When they returned on Sunday with questions, he was able to show them God's love for them that prompted him to send his Son to earth to die in their place for their sin.